Hi, welcome to my training videos. This is Vamshi. So in this video session, I'm going to discuss about the introduction to triggers. So in every relational database, we have a concept called as a triggers concept. So the beauty of any database or any relational database, you can see with the help of the triggers. Triggers are going to be very powerful in a relational database. Almost all every relational database is having this concept called as a triggers. Like we have an Oracle database, Oracle is having the triggers. Even the databases like SQL Server and even the databases like the MySQL. So almost all every relational database is having this particular concept called as a triggers concept. Triggers are very powerful in a relational databases. So here in this video or in this session, I'm going to discuss only about the Oracle triggers concepts. Almost all the concept is same in any relational database, but specifically in this session, I'm going to discuss only about the Oracle triggers only. We are going to discuss about that. First of all, to understand the triggers concept, first of all, we have to understand something about the procedures and functions in a database. These are also going to be some of the objects in a database. So what is a procedure and what is a functions? Generally, there are going to be what we are going to call it as, being I'm talking about Oracle, so we call it as a named PL/SQL objects. So what is a named PL/SQL object which is going to be stored in the database? Trigger is also going to be a one of the named PL/SQL object only. So it is also going to be stored in the database and it also can be gets reusable. So stored named PL/SQL objects are nothing but which is going to be stored in the database. Being it is stored in the database, it can be reusable. So similar to procedures, similar to functions, and even in Oracle, we have some other object called as in packages. Even packages are also going to be one of the named PL/SQL object. Similar to them, we have a concept called as a triggers concept. But what is the difference between them? Procedures and functions are created by the user. So it is going to be explicitly created by the user. Explicitly, they are going to be created by the user. And when they are going to be executed, whenever the user explicitly calls it, so user has to invoke it. So user is going to invoke that particular object. So the user says that I want to execute a function, I'm going to execute a package, or the execute the member of a package, or going to be executing a procedure. But whenever the user calls it or whenever the user invokes, then only they are going to be gets executed. Then what about a triggers? Triggers are also going to be, they are going to be explicitly created by the user only. We are going to create them. Explicitly created by the user. But they are going to be executed automatically by the system. So they are not going to be invoked by the user. They are going to be executed automatically by the system. So they are going to be executed automatically. So for a trigger, we have to just specify, we have to just create a trigger, but we need not to call the particular trigger manually by yourself. It is executed automatically. But whenever anything is executing automatically, we have to specify when to execute that particular trigger. When means it is not like a time based. It is not a time based execution. So generally it is not like executed morning 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock. It is not like that. If anything is executing automatically on a time base, generally we are going to call them as a scheduling. So triggers are not scheduled. Triggers are not going to be scheduled. Then how it is executed? We have to specify the event of execution. When to execute is, it is not the time based, it is going to be the event of execution. I will explain what is meaning of an event of execution. Like for example, whenever we are talking about or whenever we trying to log into some Gmail or to some Facebook or your banking account, we have to enter the username, we have to enter our username or some ID, user ID, and we have to enter something called as an password. So after entering the username and after entering the password, we have to perform some action. We have to perform some action, we have to do that. The action is going to be nothing but just let us say that we have to click on this button called as a login button, we have to click it. Whenever I click on this login button, then internally some code will be written to verify whether the username and password is valid or not. So internally some code has been got written, but when that code will be executed? Only whenever I perform an action called as a click action has been got performed. Simply if I just move the pointer on the button, that is not going to be executed. This is what I call it as an one action, or what we are going to call it as an event. So generally in a GUI based applications, in a graphical user interface applications, we are going to be having this concept called as an event. Like we have a click event. For example, if I just move the mouse on my button, that is what I call it as mouse move. Okay, and mouse move, and we are going to be having something called as lost focus, or we can say got focus, something like this. We are going to be having some kind of an events will be available. So at that particular event, and you know that in GUI based, we are going to write something like it is an event handling programming, what we call it as, or event handlers, what we are going to call it as. So in a GUI based programming like Java or some .NET, we are going to write some kind of an event handlers. You will write some code, but the code is not going to be executed always. It is going to be executed only whenever some event has been happened. Like whenever I do a click event, mouse move, key press, key up, lost focus, got focus, something like that. Whenever we do some action or event, then only the event, that particular code is executed. That is in GUI based. But coming to our databases, they are not GUI based. Then what is going to be the event here? Event is nothing but some action to be taken place. For example, whenever I do some kind of an operation like an insert, update, or delete, they are going to be doing some modification in the database. These are what we are going to call it as a DML events. These types of events are nothing but what we call it as DML events. We don't have the events like click and double click event, insert, update, delete. Same as it is when I do something like creates, or whenever I do some operations like drop, or whenever I use an operations like truncate, or something like an alter or rename. Generally, these are what we are going to call it as a DDL events. So here, as part of our triggers here, we are going to be having the events like DML events, DDL events. Even we can do some kind of an events like login or log on, log off. So connecting to the database, disconnecting from Oracle. Generally, these are what we are going to call them as the database events. So a trigger is going to be nothing but some logic or some functionality which we are going to write. Whenever that particular event is going to happen, automatically the trigger is going to be gets executed. That means we are going to write some code here. I'm just going to write some code, whatever the code you write it, and I'm going to specify that this trigger should be executed whenever I perform a delete operation on the EMP table, for example, some table like an EMP table. So that's it. Once you create and leave it, automatically whenever at any particular point of time, whenever the user performs a delete operation on the EMP table, immediately this code is going to be gets executed. So here the events are going to be DML events and DDL events, and there are going to be database events. Generally, the triggers which executes automatically at the DML events, they are nothing but what we are going to call them as the DML triggers. And the triggers which are executed automatically at DDL events, they are nothing but what we call it as a DDL triggers. And whenever the triggers are executed, like a database events like login and log off, they are nothing but what we are going to call them as a database triggers. So these are the different types of triggers what we are going to be having specifically in Oracle database. So trigger is going to be nothing but, and it is also nothing but how can you define a trigger is? It is nothing but a named PL SQL program, or we can say that a named PL SQL object, which is going to be executed automatically at the specified event. They are going to be executed automatically at the specified event. So at the specified event. So for every trigger, we are going to be having some kind of an event of execution. That event is going to be nothing but what we are going to call it as a triggering event, what we are going to call it as. So for every trigger, you will be having something like not like a time of execution, but we are going to be having something called as an event of execution. It can be a DML event, or it can be a DDL event, or it can be database events. So the triggers which are going to be executed DML are called as DML triggers, and which are executed DDL events are called as DDL triggers, and which are executed database events are called as a database triggers. So let us start our discussion with the DML triggers. So let us start with our discussion with the DML triggers. So already we discussed about that the triggers are going to be nothing but which are executed automatically whenever a DML statement is performed. Slightly I am making a small correction here. DML triggers are nothing but the triggers which are executed, going to be executed either before or either after. So simply we'll say that either before or either after any DML event. This is very important discussion here. Either before the event or after the event. So you can specify the trigger. So yes, absolutely, whenever the user performs a DML operation, the trigger is executed. But we can directly specify the option like either before or either after. So before means before the event the trigger executes, after means after the event it is going to be executed. But when to choose before, when to choose after, I will discuss about that concept later. Depending on your usage of the trigger, we are going to decide that. Now coming to the DML triggers in Oracle, they can be classified into two types. They are basically classified into two types. One is what we are going to call it as a statement level trigger. It is going to be nothing but a statement level trigger, or also we can also call it as a table level trigger also we'll call it as. As we discussed, a trigger is executed whenever the user performs a DML operation. Fine. There is nothing but what we call as a triggering event. At the same time, we have to specify how many times the trigger is executed, how many times it will execute. Statement level trigger is nothing but which is going to be executed only once for a statement. Only once for a statement. That means how many rows that particular, generally DML statements are executed on the rows. Some operations may be done on single record, some may be done on multiple records. Independent of number of rows that are affected by the DML, the trigger is going to be executed only for one time. So whether the event has been executed on 1 record or 10 records or 100 records or 0 records, trigger is executed only for one time. Anyhow, what is a row level and what is a statement level? When to use it, we'll understand it later. But as of now, I'm going to discuss about this, what exactly they are going to be. The next one is going to be nothing but we are going to call it as a row level trigger. What is a row level trigger? A row level trigger is going to be nothing but which is going to be executed once for. It is going to be once for each row that has been affected. Each row that is affected by the DML. It is not executed once for every record of the table. It is executed on each record that is affected by that particular, affected by the DML statement. For example, if the DML statement is affected on 3 records, for example, if a delete is executed on 3 records, the trigger also executes for 3 times. So depending on your requirement, do you want to execute the trigger once for a statement, make it as a statement level trigger, and once for a record, it is going to be nothing but make it as a row level trigger. So for every trigger, two things are required. One is going to be the event of execution, that is what we call as a triggering event, and how many times the trigger has to be executed, that is what we are going to call it as a trigger type, what we are going to call it as. So triggering event is nothing but either DML or a DDL or a database trigger, before, after, whatever you require. Trigger type is going to be nothing but as part of this, we are going to be having either a row level trigger or a statement level trigger. So let us understand what is meaning of row level and what is meaning of statement level. So further, I have a small discussion, I have a small point of discussion. Let us discuss about this. Let us say that I am performing a delete operation. Let us take a table of EMP table. Delete EMP where the department number is equals to 10. As we know that it is going to be deletes employees belongs to 10 department number. So I'm not discussing here what is the statement is going to do, but I'm going to discuss about how this particular statement is internally performed. So let us imagine that this is our sample EMP table. I'm taking the EMP table. I have some employee numbers like 7369, department number of some 20, some employee number like 7499, department number of 30. Somewhere here we have a employee number 7782, department number of 10, and 7839, some department number of 10. This is my sample EMP table, and 7934, the department number of 10. So when I do this delete operation, I can easily understand that it is going to be executed for 3 times because 3 records are there whose belongs to a 10 department number. So I'm not discussing about, we are not bothered about what it is doing, but how it is going to be done, we have to understand that. So general concept is whenever I perform a delete operation here, it is generally a high level language. So every high level language has to be gets compiled to convert into some low level language or some kind of a machine code is going to be generated. So here also in whenever you write a DML statement, it is a high level language. There is an SQL compiler will be there. There will be some kind of an SQL compiler will be there, and the SQL compiler will convert that particular delete statement into some machine understandable code. Some machine code will be generated. And now this machine code has to be gets executed. So this code is going to be executed by my processor. My processor will do that particular process. But how it is going to be gets done? So whenever a processor has been given with some work, generally what will happen internally? So any work whenever we are doing, there will be some starting of the process and there is going to be stopping of the process. When you are doing some work, there is a beginning and there is going to be ending will be there. Same as it is, whenever a machine code is executing, whenever the machine starts executing the code, the first step is going to be, it says that I'm starting the execution. I'm going to starting the execution. Once the execution has been started, then the pointer points to the first record of the table here. First it will mark saying that my process is going to be starting the execution. It will check the department number. 20 equals to 10. Condition is going to be false. When the condition is false, the DML statement will not be processed from the first record. Immediately the process does not stop there. The process will continue with the next record. Again the 30 equals to 10. Condition is going to be false. The DML statement has been not performed. Process is started, but up to now the DML statement has been not yet started. It's not yet done actually. Like that, when it comes to the 7782, 10 is equals to 10 because the condition is department number equals to 10. The condition is true. Then the delete statement is performed. That means the second step is the DML operation has been got performed first time. After performing the DML statement on this particular record, immediately it does not stop there. Again it goes to the next record. Again the condition becomes true. The third step is going to be again performs a DML operation. Again when it goes to the next record, again there is a DML operation is going to be done. Let us imagine that there are only 3 employees belongs to a 10 department number. Being further there are no more records are there, it is going to be stopping the execution. So it is going to stop the execution. So process will start and process will stop. In between the starting and stopping only, the DML operation is going to be gets performed. So directly the DML operation is not directly, it is not going to directly execute on the table. First it will be marked as a starting the execution, then the DML operation, and then it is going to be stopping the execution. Now let us same as it is. For example, let us say that same example if I say where some department number is equals to 20. The same example, but I said department number equals to 20. I am just giving a hint saying that there are 5 records are there who belongs to 20 department number. So what is the process? Again the same process. We can see starting, then second step is going to be DML, the third step is going to be nothing but a DML, and fourth step is going to be again a DML, fifth step is again a DML, and sixth step is going to be DML, and seventh step is going to be stopping the process. Because there are 5 records are there. For example, if I say where the department number is equals to, for example, let us say some 40. Actually in my table, I don't have any 40 department employees. Let us say there are 0 records are there. But what it will do? First step, it will start the process, and second step, being there are no records belongs to 40, it is going to stop the process. So in all these example, what we can conclude the concept here is, once if we just have a look at these concepts, what we can just conclude the concept here is, one thing you can find here is, starting and stopping is done only once for a statement, independent of the number of records that has been got affected. If you observe carefully the 3 outputs, whether there are 3 records deleted, whether there are 5 records deleted, whether there are 0 records deleted, starting and stopping is done. Starting and stopping is done. So starting and stopping is done only once for a statement, not once for every record. Even if there are 0 records are there, it will start the process, compulsory it should start the process, and it has to stop the process. So what you can observe here is, starting the execution and stopping the execution is done only once for a statement. So generally, the trigger which is executed at the time of starting, that is going to be what we are going to call it as a statement level trigger, or the trigger which is executed at the time of stopping is also what we call it as a statement level trigger. As I told you, statement level trigger is executed once for a statement. So why they execute once for a statement? Because is the statement level triggers are executed either at the time of starting the execution or at the time of stopping the execution. And one more thing is starting and stopping. Who will come before? We know that. Generally, I told you the trigger can be executed either before or after. So the trigger which executes the time of starting is generally what we call it as a before statement level, and the trigger which executes at the time of stopping, that is what we are going to call it as an after statement level. So it's a very nothing to by heart here. Start the process, DML, stop the process. At the time of starting will come before. So it is before statement level, and if a trigger is made as an after statement level, it will execute at the time of stopping the process. That means by the time already the rows are affected by the DML. But if a trigger is going to be before statement, first the trigger executes and then DML operation is performed. So statement level triggers are executed at the time of either starting the process or at the time of stopping the process. Before statement is at the starting and after statement is going to be at the time of stopping. And for every DML statement, there will be something called as there is a before row. So row level triggers are executed just before the DML, and there will be after row will be there. Again for the next DML, again there will be before row will be there, and again there will be an after row will be there. Again for the third DML, again we have a before row will be there, and you will be having the after row will be there. Like that, it is going to be nothing but after row will be there. Like this, for every DML there is a before row and after row, but for every statement there is only one before statement and after statement is there. For example, if I talk about the 20 department number, it is going to be before statement and this is going to be after statement. And for every DML there is a before row and there is an after row. So your DML is affected in between the before row level and after row level. Again for the next record also before row, after row, before row, after row. Whenever I am deleting the 40 department employees, there will be a before statement and there will be after statement will be there. So what you can observe, statement level triggers are executed always only once for a statement, and row level triggers are going to be executed once for each record of the that has been affected by the DML statement. That is the difference between a row level and a statement level. But when to choose a row level, when to choose a statement level, that we'll understand it later. So mainly for a trigger, two things are important. One is going to be the event of execution, that is going to be triggering event, and the other one is going to be nothing but the trigger type, whether it is a row level, when the statement level. So triggering event will define when to execute the trigger, and trigger type will define how many times the trigger has to be executed. It's a very easy, nothing to by heart and nothing to understand it here. Simple understanding. For example, just if it is deleting only one record, then simple process is going to be starting, and it is going to be second step is a DML, and third step is going to be stop the process. At the time of starting is going to be before statement level, at the time of stopping is after statement level. Just before the DML it is a before row level, and just after the DML there is an after row level. Depending on the number of rows affected, it will be that many times before row level, before after, that many times after row level. But it is not going to be executed. For example, if 3 records are deleting, it is not 3 before row levels and after 3 row levels. It is 1 before row level, 1 after row level. For second record, again 1 before row level and 1 after row level. And for third record, again there is a 1 more before row level and 1 is an after row level. So this is the way how we can understand the particular what is a row level and what is a statement level. So now to understand this concept, I'll show you a simple example. I'm not going to write any business logics. I'm going to simply write a trigger. What the trigger will do is, it is going to display the message. So you know how to display the message in a PL SQL program. dbms underscore output dot put underscore line. Simply I'll print a message called as trigger executed. I want to make this message as an nothing but as a trigger, and I'm going to execute the trigger. Just I'll show you both of them. First I'll show you what is row level and what is statement level. So delete, either a statement level I'll take it or either as a row level. So let us first understand what is row level, what is statement level, and then we'll understand what is before and what is after. First we'll understand what is row level and what is statement level. So how do you create a trigger? So trigger creation is very easy. This is a general syntax of how to create a trigger. So at your SQL prompt, what I'm going to do is I'm going to write the syntax. Create or replace. Generally it is an optional. So what is create or replace is nothing but if it is not there, create it. If it is already there, replace it. So create or replace, which is going to be nothing but trigger name. Trigger does not take any arguments because we don't execute by ourselves. So no input, no output. You should be using something like an either before or after. Only one should be used. You cannot use both at a time. Either before or after, you can use the three events. That is nothing but insert or update or delete. So one trigger can be raised not only just only for one event. You can use a combination. Only insert, only update, only delete, insert or update, update or delete, insert, update or delete, whatever you want. And we have to write on a specific table name. It is not for every delete statement. When I do a delete statement on a particular table, and these are DML triggers. And we have some small option called as, which is going to be for each row. So whenever I use for each row, it becomes nothing but a row level trigger. If I don't use it, it is going to become a statement level. That's it. There is nothing separate syntax is there. Same keyword, that is for each row, if I use it, it becomes a row level, else it becomes a statement level. Sometimes if you want to declare any variables, sometimes you require any variables, you can do the declarations. After that, we are going to do the begin and whatever the code you want to write, and simply we write the end, put a semicolon, put a forward slash. You have to get a message called as trigger create. It only creates the trigger, but after that we don't execute. If there is any errors are there, we'll get some errors like n with compilation errors. We are going to get the errors called as with compilation errors. That's it. So this is a message what we are going to be getting here now. So just create or replace trigger name, either before or after, only one we can use. Here I can use as many combinations I can use it. All the three combinations or only one, two, whatever you require on a particular table name. So this is nothing but the triggering event, and this is going to be nothing but my trigger type it is going to be. So remaining program is the same program. So let me connect to my Oracle database first. Let me connect with Oracle database. I'm connecting with my Oracle database. Okay. So I'm connecting to my user, which is going to be Scott and Tiger. So first I'm going to create this one. So before doing that, I'm going to set the server output to on state. Generally, if you want to see the output of dbms underscore output dot put underscore line, we have to set the server output to on state. Okay. So now what I'm going to do now? So what exactly I'm going to do now? I'm going to create a trigger. So how do you create a trigger? So I'm going to say create or replace. I say trigger. Just a trigger name is going to be a trigger one. So before or after, I have to specify. Later I discuss about the before or after. For the timing, in this example, what is row level, what is statement level? Before, it is delete statement on EMP table. And I'm not making for each row, no declaration is required. Begin, I'm going to display the message saying that dbms underscore output dot put underscore line. This is a printable statement. And I'm going to print a message saying that it is trigger executed. I'm writing a message called as a trigger executed and end the program. Simply we'll get a message called as trigger has been got created. So when this trigger is executed, I don't execute the trigger manually saying that call the trigger one like a procedure or a function. Whenever I do a delete operation on EMP table, automatically the trigger is executed, and this is statement level trigger. So it executes only once for a statement. So actually it's a before statement. Before statement means just before execution starts, but trigger executed. But as of now, leave the concept call as a before here. Later I'll talk about that. Now see, delete EMP where the department number is equals to 10. Whether 3 records deleted, 5 records deleted, 10 records deleted, does not matter. Trigger is going to be executed for one time. When the trigger is executed, we have to get a message called as trigger executed. Generally, when you delete a record, we used to get a message like 5 rows deleted, 3 rows deleted, 1 row deleted. Generally, the message will come. But along with the number of records affected, it will also display the message called as trigger executed. You can see very clearly, 3 rows has been got deleted, and we got a message called as trigger executed for one time. Even if I delete the employees belongs to 20 department number, I may have 5 records. Even 5 records deleted also, trigger is executed only for one time. Even if I say delete EMP where department number equals to 40, actually I don't have any 40 department employees in my table. 0 records are deleted, but trigger has been got executed for one time. How can you say that it is executed for one time? I got the message only for one time. If it is executed for two times, I have to get trigger executed for two times. I'm doing some kind of a rollback. Rollback means whatever the records are deleted, that will come back. So now I'm going to delete all the records. Delete EMP. Simply I'm going to get the 14 records deleted, but trigger executed for one time. Again, if we say delete EMP, there are no records. Already all records are deleted. But still we'll get a message called as trigger executed. That is the way how this particular statement level triggers are executed. Now I'll show you the same example with a row level trigger. Let me build back my demonstration tables. So this is the script which I will run to build my demonstration tables, which is nothing but an EMP table. Now what I'm going to do now, same process I'm going to do now. Again I say the same thing, create or replace, which is going to be trigger. Let us say that it is going to be trigger 1. Again the same process before delete on the EMP table. But I'm going to use a keyword called as an for each row. And what I'm going to do now, begin dbms underscore output dot put underscore line. I'm going to print the message called as, which is going to be nothing but trigger executed. And I'm going to say end the program. That's it. Slightly there is a difference. In the earlier case, it is a row level trigger. In the earlier case, it is a statement level trigger. And in this case, it is a row level trigger. The difference is, same process I'm doing now. Delete EMP where department number equals to 10. 3 records are deleted. Trigger also execute for 3 times. But it is not executed 3 times after deleting the 3 records. It is just before deleting only. Before deleting the first record 1 time. Before deleting the second record 2nd time. Before deleting the 3rd record 3rd time. Just before deleting only the trigger is executed. So very clearly we can see the message. Trigger executed is the message we got for 3 times. Meaning that is the trigger has been got executed for 3 times. For example, if I say department number is equals to, for example, 20, then what happens now? The trigger is going to be executed for the 5 times because 5 records are going to be deleted. So we'll get the trigger executed message for 5 times we'll get it. For example, if I say department number equals to 40, so we don't have any 40 department employees. No record is going to be deleted. Trigger executed for 0 times because row level triggers are executed not once for a statement, it is once for a record on which the DML is executed. Now I'll say rollback. Rollback means the records what I deleted has came back. Now again I'm going to delete the records. What happens now? 14 records are going to be deleted. It will execute for 14 times. Now the trigger executed is a message which is coming for 14 times. Again you say delete EMP. It will execute for 0 times. So if a trigger is executing only for 1 time, independent of the number of rows affected, we call it as a row level number of record. It's called as a statement level. And if it is executing depending on the number of rows affected, that is what we call it as a row level trigger, what we call it as. So that is the difference between a statement level and a row level trigger, what we are going to use it here. That's it. This is what we call it as a row level and a statement level. Now we'll try to understand what is before statement, what is after statement. To understand that, now I have to create 4 triggers. So I'll create 4 triggers, which is going to be trigger 1, second one is going to be trigger 2, and third one is going to be trigger 3, and next one is going to be trigger 4. Totally 4 triggers I'm creating. All of them are going to be at the delete event only. It's not like one at delete, one at insert, but slightly different. It is before statement, this is after statement. This is before row, and this is going to be after row. So totally I'm going to create 4 triggers. When trigger 1 executed, I'll print a message saying that trigger 1 executed, trigger 2 executed, trigger 3 and trigger 4. For example, if I deleted one record, for example, I'm deleting 1 records. Let us say that. I said delete EMP where some employee number, where the employee number equals to, for example, I said where employee number equals to something like 7369. Only 1 record is there. We know the process. Start the process. Only 1 record is there. So it is going to be DML. And third step is going to be stop the process. We know that at the time of starting, it executes the before statement level. Before statement means it is nothing but T1. And just before the DML, it is before row level. So it is going to be T3. And just after the DML, it is T4. And at the time of stopping, it is going to be T2. I will create T1, T2, T3, T4, but they are executed not like T1, T2. First it is T1 because it is before starting. just before starting, and before the DML it is going to be T3, just after the DML it is T4, and at the time of stopping it is T2. For example, if I said where department number is equals to, for example, 10, there are 3 records are deleting. So first one is T2, second one is T3, third step is going to be T4, but 3 records are deleting. Fourth step is going to be again T3, fifth one is going to be T4. Again sixth step is going to be again T3, and seventh step is going to be T4. And the eighth step is going to be nothing but T2, because this is one row, this is one row, this is one row. So independent of the number of records, T1 and T2 are executed only for one time, but depending on the number of records, T3 and T4 are going to be executed. Depending on the number of rows, T3 and T4 is executed, depends on the number of rows. But T1 and T2 is going to be just obviously, it is only once for a statement it is executed. So what I'm going to do now? So I'm going to create the trigger one more time. I'm writing the editor now. This is my editor, so I can write it in the editor. Create or replace, I say which is going to be trigger. Let us say that it is going to be something like a trigger 1, and just as slightly different, it is going to be before delete on the EMP table. Before doing this, I have to do one thing. Let me get back my demonstration tables, because I deleted the data actually. Okay, no issue. So next I can again convert it. Create or replace trigger, the trigger name is going to be, I say which is going to be trigger 1. That should be executed before the delete on the EMP table. It's a statement level. Begin, and just highlight a statement saying that dbms underscore output dot put underscore line, and I'm going to print the message called as trigger 1 executed, which is nothing but a before statement level. And I say end the program. Carefully, I'm going to open the same code, and I'm doing a small correction here now. The correction is, it is going to be trigger 2, and it is going to be after delete. Statement level, but this is going to be trigger 2 executed. Change the message, otherwise the message will remain the same. Now I'm going to do a one more change, which is going to be trigger 3, and this is going to be nothing but, I make it as a before, but I make it as a for each row. It's nothing but a before row level, and I'm going to display the message called as trigger 3 is executed. Again, I'm going to do the one more trigger, which is going to be nothing but trigger 4, and I'm going to say that which is going to be nothing but after delete on EMP, and it is going to be trigger 4. So all of them are EMP table, and all of them are going to be delete events only, but slightly there is a difference. Trigger 1 is going to be before statement, it's a before statement. Trigger 2 is going to be after statement. Trigger 3 is going to be before row, and trigger 4 is going to be after row. So totally 4 triggers I created. My order of creation is T1, T2, T3, T4. Now you get this. Delete EMP, I said where the employee number equals to 7369. One record is deleted. So start the process, DML, and stop the process. At the time of starting the process, before statement, that is T1, just before the DML, before row, that is T3, just after the DML, that is after row, that is T4, and after that, at the stopping the process, it is going to be the after statement level, which is going to be T2. So totally 4 triggers executes, but it is T1, T3, T4, and T2. And the record is deleted just in between the T3 and the T4. For example, if I said where department number equals to 10, what happens now? There are going to be 3 records are going to be deleted. So T1 and T2 are executed only one time, but T3 and T4 are executed, each one is executed for 3 times, totally 8 triggers. Because row levels are 2, 2 into 3, 6, statements are 2, 2 into 1, 2. So totally there are going to be 8 triggers are executed. T1, it is not 3 times T3 and 3 times T4. T3, T4, one row deleted. In between T3, T4, one row is deleted. In between the T3 and T4, one row is deleted. And T4 is at the time of stopping the process. For example, if I said the same thing when department number equals to 20, 5 records are deleted. How many triggers execute? 5 into 2, 10 times. There is a T3, T4 executed totally for 10 times. T1 and T2 is obviously 2 times. So totally 12 triggers are executed. T1, in between T3, T4, one row, second row, third row, fourth row. I think already I deleted one employee belongs to 20 department number here. That's why it is going to be not 12 times, it is going to be 10 times only. Because there are only 4 records are there. 4 into 2, 8 times. And this is going to be 1 and 1, which is going to be 10 times. Now I say rollback. Rollback means all the records will come back. Now there are 14 records are there. So totally how many triggers will execute? 14 into 2, 28 plus 2, which is going to be 30 triggers will execute. And you can see very clearly this is T1, T3, T4, T3, T4, T3, T4 like that. It will be executed totally for 14 times are executed. Role statement levels are executed only for one time. But whenever I do the same delete EMP, row levels are not executed. It executes only the statement level only. That is T1 and T2. You can see T3, T4 won't execute. And why the T1 first and why the T2 next? Because T1 is before statement, T2 is after statement. So before statement will come first at the time of starting the process. T2 is going to be after statement at the time of ending the process or at the time of stopping the process. So this is how we can understand what is a row level and what is the statement level triggers. And in this session, this is only the introduction to DML triggers. So in the coming classes, we are going to discuss about, in the coming sessions, I am going to discuss about a little bit more about the triggers concept. This is only just an introduction to the triggers. In the coming videos, I am going to explain what is the in-depth about the concept about the use cases of triggers and the implementation of the triggers concepts. Thank you for watching the video.